When you've been on the healing journey long enough, there's a point where self-improvement stops working. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the part of you that needed the fixing isn't running the show anymore. In this conversation, we're going to talk about the after healing era. The point where the work is integrated, but the mind hasn't fully caught up yet. Before we get into it, if this is the kind of space that you already live in, I'm talking nervous system healing, soul reclamation, identity rewiring, hit that subscribe button so these conversations keep showing up for you. Embodiment is the era of the healing journey when you finally drop story. This is when we take an elevator ride from the mental sphere, the world of reactivity and story, and we move into our body. So with that, there's sort of this physical sense of completion in a way. Like there's less pressure to do. There's less pressure to go somewhere, be something, do something. You're just here. You're connected to the essence of I am. So therefore, if you're whole, there's nothing to repair. There's so much more neutrality and presence that even if you notice something wrong with yourself or there's some kind of moment of I could have done that better or whatever, it's no longer about you. There's no like loaded attachment onto everything, no narrative attached, and not everything is a reflection of your perceived lack of wholeness or your perceived lack of worth or value. I say perceived because of course those things are intrinsic to us. So yeah, eventually you just get to a place where you just are. Things just are. Maybe you're in an environment where you don't really, you've outgrown it or you're outgrowing it, or it's not truly mirroring who you've become. But whereas in the past you may have felt really stifled or disempowered or discouraged by your outer environments, now you're able to just have that neutrality and be fully present in the moment without it meaning anything, without it affecting your inner landscape, your inner weather. And then you realize that self-improvement is inevitable. I don't even like the word improvement, by the way. That's a horrible word, in my opinion. I like transformation. I like evolution, actualization, becoming. But improvement feels like the whole idea of having to fix yourself when you are whole, you are perfect, you are worthy, all of these things are, again, intrinsic. Society has told us that there's some standard that we're supposed to be. It's bullshit. And on this spiritual path, that's what we find again. We remember, oh, right. And then you realize that the real things, the things I just named, transformation, becoming, evolution, all of that, expansion, they're actually on polar opposite sides. Self-improvement is such a contraction because it's all about, again, it's only up here and it comes down to fixing yourself, or the idea of having to fix yourself. Whereas the opposite is coming home to yourself, being honest with yourself in an embodied, loving, radically self-accepting kind of way. And through that, through being there for yourself emotionally, that's what leads to expansion. Because that's the door to safety, and safety is the gatekeeper, the bottleneck. Gatekeeper? You come to this very stable, integrated baseline where you are doing the opposite of performing. You drop all performance. If there's ever moments or remnants, you notice them, you clock it immediately and you're like, yeah, no, I don't like how that feels. And I think because it is so embodied and it's so not something that comes with like loud flashing lights, and not only that, but often it comes in environments or around people who may still even think you're playing old roles or you're the same as you were or are still living in that old paradigm of performance and compromise of truth and distortion or whatever. You may miss it. Like you may miss it entirely, how much you've actually integrated. And the flatness of it, the feeling of like, it's quiet. It's a quiet space. I think it's just what life feels like when we're not living in story anymore, when we are not living in reactivity and urgency, when we finally find safety and presence. It is a quieter way to exist. And again, yes, people will project. People will still believe that you are the same as you were because they need to in order to continue to see themselves as who they were. That's just the limits of perception and how much identity influences how we see the world and how we see other people and how we show up in dynamics. People will still default to connecting with you through old, outdated, unconscious forms of connection. They just will. You may make it clear with subtle but clean gestures that show you you're not available for the old dynamic anymore. Eventually, they'll either rise, which I think is not often, or they will fall away, which is more often. It's a reality. And I do think that, at least for me, the more I am living from this place of integrity and truth and coherence, call me cold, but I am happier and more fulfilled and more healthy and aligned and inspired and purpose-driven and motivated than I ever was. I didn't know that at the time, so it's not like I was just like living out these relationships all along thinking I'm contorting myself and shrinking myself to match you, because at one point in time I was not aware of that, so it didn't feel that way. But when you reach that awareness and you're finally like spreading your wings and stretching out, sometimes maybe it really does hurt for a long time to lose people or to feel the ache of losing people, especially people who hold a soft place in your heart and mattered, that were a big part of your life and were there for you a lot, but who also are not able to meet you at your current rate of growth, of healing. It's interesting to see who really reveals their bandwidth once you stop bridging the gap for people and just seeing it for what it is. You're like, oh wow, that has been the distance between us this whole time, and I have been the one to reach all the way through. But it's a relief to acknowledge, because then you can stop. You can finally let yourself off the hook and let go, and you realize like, wow, that feels lighter. We are able to witness dynamics because we're actually present and we're sovereign, because our identity is no longer tangled up in the role that we once played. There are little micro choices that you make when you are self-recognizing or recognizing yourself, witnessing yourself, present with yourself. You naturally, without question or hesitation, refuse self-abandonment, and you choose alignment instead of self-correction. You do what's right for you, what feels good in your body. And when you make mistakes, you're just simply witnessing. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but it really is that simple. If I'm not even the same person as I was, then I just am. And you and I are the same. And we're just different expressions of that consciousness, of the universe, of God, of whatever source. And then nothing is personal. Again, it doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries, but nothing lands the same way because you have actually met yourself. You are actually there for yourself. You have recognized your soul, your truth. And when you recognize yourself and you meet yourself and you give yourself what you need and you continue to do that, you're aligned with your soul. There's nothing to fix. There just is. You're not really placing your entire worth, your whole identity, your whole life's purpose into a role or a dream. You might find that you think about your future and you're like moved to tears. That's not ego, my friend. That's soul level work. So instead you have that quiet knowing that's pulling you towards your destiny. There's this inner somatic pull. If you're just present and you stay in alignment and in integrity with that inner voice, your evolution and expansion is absolutely inevitable. You literally do not have to do a thing because you are already following the guide of the self, of the soul, which is innately wise, beyond what we can comprehend. That part of you knows exactly where to take you, knows exactly how you're going to expand, how you're meant to expand in this life. That part of you knows the way. So long as you are following that part of you, just that's the one thing you need to do, is stay present and stay in your body and listen. Those are the three things, because all of that's going to help you find the safety you need to start tuning out the noise and start tuning in to what actually matters in here. You do that, and recognition of your truth, of your soul, and presence with what really is, recognition and presence is what reorganizes everything so that this next life, this next iteration of your being or expression of this new self, this new evolved, expansive version of yourself can finally land. So, I promise you that nothing needs fixing. Nothing was ever broken. Ever. You are whole. And self-recognition is the moment that you stop trying to work on yourself because you finally remember you have already become the person you were trying to heal into. You've always been that person. All you need to keep doing is aligning with it within you by being present and being there for yourself. Recognizing yourself. Trusting that with that presence and with that recognition comes love, comes acceptance, and everything else to follow. Where are you still acting like someone who needs fixing, even though you've already outgrown that version of you? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And if you're new here and you like this video, hit the subscribe button so these conversations keep finding you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.